Can you hear me now? I'm trying to fix it. Sounds like a bird and a mouse fighting. That I've learned a lot is a story of my life, actually. No, I'm kidding. All right. Can y'all hear me now? Houston, we have a problem. Okay. Can you hear me? Can y'all hear me? Liz can hear me. Deb can hear me. Sketty Nona can hear me. So let's start over, shall we? Just pretend like I just got here, okay? Hello, 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 as my dad used to say. That was my dad's unique greeting to just about everyone. So if you hear anybody else starting their videos with hello, 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 you will know they are a fraud and a thief. Plagiarism, I say. All right. Thank you. Hey, Cinnamon Hot, Hot, Hot. How are you? Hey, Cristola. Welcome. Shella Bella. All right. Beverly W. How are you doing? Northport Marina. Good to see you. Wise old lady. Are there really two of us around? That's great. There's power in numbers, wise old lady. Barry behind bars was screaming. He was screaming. He was saying, lock him up, lock him up. Okay. He knows the truth. All right. Hey, Miss Catherine. Good to see you. Scarlett. Scarlett. Hey, okay. I think Lise Dejanur. Welcome. All right. So we're going to talk. Hey, Callie Connect. Hey, how are you? He did. He was well loved by everyone. You would hear his laugh before you ever saw his body. You knew he was coming because it was just laughing, loud, happy, help anyone that ever needed anything. He's a great guy. Okay, so Christian Andreacchio. This is the handsome young man that you see on the screen. And yes, his name is pronounced Andreacchio. I don't know why, after all these years, people can't like get it to work, get their mouth to work properly, but it is Andreacchio. Okay. Now then, so Christian was murdered. And I think if you give me a second, because we had the discombobulation, I will show you. This was the girlfriend. This is Rae and Todd Andreacchio. Rae is the mother, and she is the one officially who brought suit against Critical K, a YouTube creator. And Rae brought suit against Critical K for the way that Critical K behaved with regards to this young man. All right. Now, it is true that Christian's death is officially ruled a suicide. But there were some very strange circumstances, like this human being who, as Christian is, we believe, already dead in the bathroom of the apartment, this loser shows up at the bank with Christian's bank card, trying to take all of his money out of his account, saying, oh, Christian wanted me to have his money. There were a lot of these types of issues surrounding this particular terrific, shocking crime. The young lady was terribly manipulative. Hold on, there's another. See, here he is trying to get Christian's money. And when this guy leaves the bank empty-handed, I might say, the bank, thank goodness, refused to give him the money. And when he got back to the apartment, he claimed, no, I think if I remember the story correctly, I think he got back to the apartment and the girlfriend was sleeping and he went to sleep. They were using drugs. And then they heard a loud explosion, and that supposedly was when Christian killed himself. I don't believe that's what happened. I think when he got back there, Christian was already gone, and I think Christian might have been gone before he left. But that's for the investigators to work out. But I don't believe at all that this was a suicide. And this was one of those. I don't want to show any. I got to be careful. Okay, that's the clean bathroom. Okay. I thought we had a picture. Yeah, so apparently when Christian committed suicide, he, fired 3 bullets or something. So that was kind of curious, right? Okay. I thought there was a picture of both the human being and this human being and then the girlfriend. I thought there was a picture of them together. No, I guess not. Weird. Okay. So if you were to see a photograph of this young lady, beautiful, absolutely gorgeous, and this human, if you were to see photographs of them today, you would be frightened because they enjoy methamphetamine and that they're living that lifestyle. So they're very ill and not doing very well. But I have a lot of animosity toward them. And I've been through the case file. I've been through the case file more than, that was one thing I said. Do I want to go back through that and get all, remind myself of all the subtleties of the different, facts and whatnot. And I thought, oh, it's such a sad, it's one of those cases that you just feel hopeless, So I thought I'm just, this is not really about Christian, the young man that was murdered, in my opinion, murdered. This is actually about a YouTube creator and then the mother of a murder victim, Rae Andreacchio. Well, when you read this judgment, so the court found that Critical K, in fact, did do everything that Rae Andreacchio said that she did. All right. And it was pretty. I remember the night that she said these things, I was listening and I thought, golly, are you, what do you do? Are you thinking about what you're saying? And I don't know because she, she's fairly bombastic and confident, I guess you could say. But for one of the things that was said, Critical K decided to white knight for the human and what used to be the very beautiful girlfriend, right? And so Critical K decided that those 2 young people that everybody believed had murdered or had their hand in, the death of Christian, that someone needed to stand up for those 2 young people. Someone needed to stand up for them. And now I can pull out videos of the one of the girls pulling the human's girlfriend trying to shoot people in the parking lot, trying to shoot Christian's sister. I mean, the whole thing was just awful and off color and low key, like is typical of, the meth culture, right? And it was a horrible situation. I can't even tell you. And so it was quite a mystery to most YouTubers, I think. It was quite a mystery when Critical K jumped in and decided that she was going to take all the heat for the human and the beautiful, formerly beautiful blonde girl. that Critical K would be the knight in shining armor and speak up for these two young people. And who was the dragon that she envisioned that she would battle? Who was it that needed to be struck down because of, the fire breathing assault and attack on these two innocent little lambs? Well, Critical K believed that Rae Andreacchio was a fire breathing dragon who needed to be slain. It was quite a strange couple of weeks. In fact, Critical K even had the human on her show and on her channel, and it just became a Rae Andreacchio hate fest. It was one of the most unusual things I've ever seen, because this is the mother of a young man who had a lot of promise. He had a lot of life in him, and it was just out of the blue, just eliminated. And the police really failed to respond and rise to the occasion. And she was battling with the local prosecutor's office for whatever reason. And it was really that kind of small town, the night the lights went out in Georgia, kind of scenario, coming from a little town in Mississippi. And Andreacchio just could not get anyone to listen. She wasn't alone. What the chief of police was standing beside her saying, "Hey guys, this is wrong. We got a lot of problems in this investigation. There were things that were done incorrectly or were never done at all, and we need second eyes." And yet the prosecutor, the DA, they kept standing, the sheriff, they kept standing in the way. They kept interfering. And yes, there was a lot of question about, what are they hiding? Where's the corruption? What is it that they're afraid might happen if there is an investigation concerning this group of people? Like, what is the key? It was kind of interesting because this young man that was really, I believe, responsible for the death of Christian, he and Christian were not really even friends. They had known one another earlier in life, but then they went in different directions. Christian had a girlfriend who later became a veterinarian. They did break up. He had some depression, but then he ended up finding this great job on a tugboat that he was really, really interested in, excited about. He wanted, if I remember correctly, I believe he wanted to go to school to be like a tugboat captain. And he was really future focused and really excited about what the world was going to bring. The human and the blonde Christian, the blonde girl, they went a completely different direction. They were just on a search for mind-altering drugs and everything that went along with that lifestyle, including weapons, firearms. So it was a strange thing that this guy even showed up to pick Christian up from work when Christian wasn't even supposed to be off of work. He picked him up at this very odd, obscure place in the middle of nowhere under this ruse that, Christian had to go help his parents. This was a bizarre case. And if you haven't read about it, if you hadn't heard about it, it's an interesting case to read and think about. There was even really strange gunshot residue patterns on Christian's hands. It didn't look like he fired the weapon. It looked like he put his hands up as a defense move against someone who was shooting the weapon. So when I say this was a terrible loss for Rae Andreacchio and Todd, the father, it was a terrible loss. It was a big, big loss. For whatever reason, Critical K decides to white knight for the human and the young lady. And she does this for a couple of weeks on her channel. And it's very open and out there, and she was quite bombastic. She was taunting even. And the really one of the things that I just shook my head. Rae Andreacchio is a nurse practitioner, so she sees a lot of patients. They're local. I think she was working in psychiatric medicine, I believe, and so she had a lot of patients, and she has prescription privileges, and so she's writing prescriptions, antidepressants, things like that. She's writing prescriptions to try to help people. Well, if you don't know, people with drug addictions, they battle with devastating depression and or bipolar type issues. And so it is not uncommon for people that have been using drugs, or they're trying to detox from drugs, or they're just trying to stay away from drugs. Those people very often will be prescribed medications like antidepressants or anti-anxiolytics, things like that, to try to help support them in their quest to become sober. This is a well-educated, intelligent woman who has been through all of the proper training, and she holds the correct licensing and credentials to see people with these addiction problems and to write prescriptions for medications that may just help them. This is just a woman doing her part in the battle against drug abuse in Meridian, Mississippi. It's a good lady, right? Good woman. Well, Critical K envisioned Rae Andreacchio as the great beast, the great behemoth that was trying to destroy this two little lambs, these two adorable, delightful, sweet, kind, never did anything wrong. Please, Mr. Sir, I can't tell a lie. I cut down your cherry tree. Babes. They were so innocent, according to Critical K. They were so innocent. They were so sweet. How dare Rae Andreacchio point the finger at them and say, we need an investigation into you. That was Rae's fire, by the way. That was the venom dripping from her dragon gnashing teeth. Was, I need an investigation. I need you guys to look into these two people, because these two people had gunshot residue on them when my son died. My son and these two people were in the apartment together. Can we please do a proper investigation? Please. She went all the way to the state, begging someone. That was Critical K's. She believed that was mean to these two young people who were adults, who were in the bank trying to take all of Christian's money out of the bank when we believe he was probably already deceased, who were using any manner type dose of drug imaginable. They were a mess. These two kids were ill, sick with drug addiction. And what goes along with drug addiction? Stealing, theft. And it just so happens that, yes, Christian would have had a large sum of money hidden in a box in the apartment, and his mattress was torn all up as if someone were looking for that stash. So when Rae Andreacchio says to the state, please, can we get a real investigation, not local cops? That was a cover-up that happened, and here's all the proof. And I have a cop here that knows that this was a cover-up. Please help me get an investigation. This is the path that this mother took. And yet she got turned into the demon herself. And she was treated that way as Critical K treated this young man and this young lady like they were innocent babes in the woods. And how dare they ever be accused of ever doing anything wrong? It was really that extreme. So that's okay, because that was kind of Critical K's MO, that she liked hyperbole. She liked to build things up, the extremes, right? The dichotomies. Sometimes dichotomies are the best way to learn something. But in this case, she went too far. She made some terrible claims. She actually said that Rae Andreacchio was writing prescriptions knowingly to drug addicts to get the money. She claimed that Rae Andreacchio actually gave alcohol to minors to get them drunk, to try to get them to tell what happened to Christian. This is a woman with all the proper education, licensing, and credentialing to do her job. She had never had any sort of complaint at all against her license. And now on a public platform that goes all over the world, there's a person there saying you were writing prescriptions in a nefarious and illegal way. You were supplying like drugs to the community through these illegal type prescriptions. So it got this. The reason that I'm saying this is this. This was not a case where Critical Case said, "Oh, I hate Rae Andreacchio. Rae Andreacchio is a liar. She says things that are not, she says mean things. Rae Andreacchio said mean things about me. Rae Andreacchio said my name. She doxed me by saying my name." That is not what this case was about. The words that were said were exactly the definition of slander, where the person is intentionally saying something to harm the ability of another person to continue to work and do their job, to harm their professional reputation. And in a world where people have come to shrink back in horror at the idea of, pill mills and prescription-free doctors, and all that, the mere accusation of illegally writing controlled substances, that's enough to ruin somebody's career. And maybe let them be, the target of an investigation. When all this woman was actually doing was saying, I need my kid's death investigated by serious researchers, right? Investigators. That's all I'm asking for. So the reason that I wanted to really point this out is because this is not a case of you're not allowed to say things that I don't like. This was a case of real life assault and damage with words. There was a lot that followed after that. But I'm gonna go through and I'm gonna read this judgment, okay? But I really, for those that were not around during the whole Christian Andreacchio investigations and all that happened, after, I think it's very, very, very important to have a good handle on the facts of the original case, to understand why this judgment was so important. And to tell you the truth, it was originally supposed to be a $10 million case, $10 million damages. Yeah, right? For a YouTube creator that doesn't have, 1 million subscribers. So while $500,000 as a judgment is, well, for someone who doesn't have a high income, that's not a high income earner, $500,000 is a blow to the ground. You think about it. How long Do somebody buys a $500,000 house? How long do they usually mortgage? 30 years, 20 years, hopefully 15 years. It's $500,000 is a lot of money. So this wasn't a tiny little judgment. This wasn't a little slap on the wrist. This wasn't a now you be a good girl, don't talk like that anymore. This had teeth. This was tough. Um, maybe if you're a millionaire, maybe if you're PewDiePie, it doesn't have teeth, but a small creator is devastating. And it is I think it's very important to listen to what happens when you begin to say things about people knowingly that that what you are saying is false, that that you are saying a lie against another person, and that you are intentionally saying that lie to cause them problems with their job or medically or with their families. The courts have had enough of this foolishness on social media, YouTube, stalkers and all that. So the plaintiff, Rae Andreacchio, is the mother of Christian Andreacchio, a young man who allegedly died under suspicious circumstances in 2014. Docket number 1 at 1. She resides in Lauderdale County, Mississippi, where she is a mental health service provider. The defendant, Karen Yax, is a prominent social media figure known to her followers as the Critical K. I think she's now called Just K. I think that's what her new channel is. She operates a webcast where she discusses real crime stories. She is a resident of Michigan. On March the 21st and April the 11th, I'm just going to say Critical K, discussed Christian Andreacchio's death on her webcast. She stated that Rae Andreacchio has really dominated the narrative about this thing via intimidation, bullying, outright lies, bribery, getting people drunk, and getting young people drunk, meaning minors, among other claims. I kind of laughed when I read this because I thought, so how did Critical K accuse them of outright lies? How would she know they were outright lies? That seemed confusing to me. But anyway, I'm reading the judgment now. I really do believe that Mitchell Hayes was treated by Rae Andreacchio, and Hayes is now dead with a drug overdose. He is dead also by self-harm. So she has a son that is dead by self-harm, and she has a patient who is dead by self-harm. End quote. Isn't that a strange thing to say? I've gone through this. There's so many layers of communication with that one statement. Like, what did it really mean? Let me read it again. This is what Critical K actually said on her webcast. I really do believe that Mitchell Hayes, a different kid who in this group, but a different kid who committed suicide. I really do believe that Mitchell Hayes was treated by Rae Andreacchio, and Hayes is now dead from a drug overdose. He's dead also by self-harm. So she has a son that is dead by self-harm, and she has a patient who is dead by self-harm. What did that mean? What was that she caused a suicide? Was that she caused her son suicide? It was a crazy thing to say, and it just got worse from there. Andreacchio contends that these statements leave the false impression that she had somehow caused or contributed to Christian and Mitchell's deaths. Andreacchio adds that these statements have defamed her in a false light, thereby causing her to suffer injury to her reputation and/or emotional damage. Accordingly, she filed this suit against Critical K on June the 4th, 2021, alleging defamation and false light invasion of privacy. Critical K filed her answer on June the 24th, 2021. in which she asserts that this court lacks personal jurisdiction over her. Critical K then filed a motion to dismiss on August the 12th, 2021, which this court subsequently denied on November the 19th, 2021. On November 30th, the magistrate judge assigned to this case scheduled a telephone case management conference for December the 14th, 2021. Court staff mailed and emailed notice of the hearing to Critical K. On December the 14th, however, Critical K failed to dial into the conference. After issuing an order to show cause, the magistrate judge sanctioned Critical K $100. Critical K paid the fine in a timely manner. Discovery then commenced. In August 2022, Critical K moved to have a fast approaching settlement conference conducted by telephone or video. The magistrate judge denied the request, but postponed the settlement conference to allow Critical K additional time to make travel arrangements. The magistrate judge further ordered the parties to confer and select mutually agreeable dates to hold the conference in person. Andreacchio says that Critical K, hold on, I'm having trouble. That Critical K refused to comply with the court's order to confer and pick a date for the settlement conference. Then on September the 1st, 2022, the magistrate judge scheduled a settlement conference for October the 18th. The notice of hearing from September the 1st, Critical K was directed to appear in person. A text-only order dated October the 14th repeated this same instruction. What they're saying is that they made multiple announcements to Critical K. This is when we're having it. This is the date. This is the time. And you must attend in human form in the courtroom. Critical K, however, failed to appear. Andreacchio, Rae Andreacchio, subsequently moved for sanctions pursuant to Rule 16F for Critical K's failure to attend the settlement conference and filed the present motion for default judgment under Rules 16F and 37B, yada, 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 yada. There's a lot of alphabet and numbers. In her brief seeking default judgment, Rae Andreacchio notes 3 instances in which Critical K disobeyed the court's orders. Number 1, the failure to dial into the case management conference. Number 2, the failure to confer with plaintiff's counsel regarding settlement conference dates. And number 3, the failure to attend the in-person settlement conference. Andreacchio argues that the failures to appear were deliberate, and Critical K had apparently sent the magistrate judge a September 1 email explaining that she was unprepared, this quotations, unprepared to validate long-arm jurisdiction by traveling to the state of Mississippi and subjecting herself to a process she was woefully ill-equipped to defend by herself against this bogus suit designed to harass, intimidate, and terrify her. That was Critical K's words. Rae Andreacchio adds that on October the 18th, 2022 at 10:28 a.m., mere minutes before the judge was set to begin the settlement conference, Critical K texted a third party the following, and it shows, a clip shot. It's a screenshot. It says, "I don't really know anything. The court threatened to sanction me again. Last time they sanctioned me, $100. Who knows what they will do this time? But I'm not going there ever. It's just not even possible. But she was doing a lot of traveling at that time. Like I think it was Hawaii. In a response brief opposing sanctions, Critical K argues that her absence from the settlement conference was due to economic constraints, lack of access to reasonable legal counsel, and a legitimate fear for her personal and physical safety, mental well-being, and mental health. Andreacchio, in reply, Rae Andreacchio contends that the YouTuber's comment, poverty is very much in doubt, observing that Critical K mailed her original motion to dismiss from Honolulu, Hawaii. On February the 1st, 2023, the undersigned scheduled a motions hearing for March the 20th. The scheduling order specifically noted the following: the defendant is reassured that she will not waive her personal jurisdiction defense merely by appearing for a hearing in this case. She has already preserved her jurisdictional defense for further review. On March 10th, the magistrate judge granted Rae Andreacchio's motion for Rule 16F sanctions in the amount of $895.67. That sum is due to the clerk of court on or before May the 1st, 2023. Critical K did not appear on March the 20th at the motions hearing before the undersigned. The court denied Critical K's outstanding motions as abandoned and pledged to rule on the outstanding motion for default judgment in due course. Then he goes on to do applicable laws. Rule 16F says that the court may impose sanctions, including those authorized by rule blah, 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 if a party or its attorney fails to appear at a scheduling or other pretrial conference or fails to obey a scheduling or other pretrial order. It allows this court to render a default judgment against the disobedient party. And then it says the cases discuss the standard for default judgment as a sanction in different ways. And it describes where a district court awards default judgment as a discovery sanctions. Two criteria must be met. First, the penalized party's discovery violation must be willful. The drastic measure is only to be employed where a lesser sanction would not substantially achieve the desired deterrent effect. The reviewing court may also consider whether the discovery violation prejudiced the opposing party's preparation for trial and whether the client was blameless in the violation. And then they name, the citations, $49,000, affirming district court's award of default judgment as a sanction. Default judgment is a litigation ending sanction. So once you get that judgment, you can't come back, and sue again. Under the litigation ending sanction, the Fifth Circuit was reframing the standard for default judgments into one with four required findings. One, the discovery violation was committed willfully or in bad faith. Two, the client rather than counsel is responsible for the violation. Three, the violation substantially prejudiced the opposing party. And four, a lesser sanction would not substantially achieve the desired deterrent effect. Because default judgment is an extraordinary penalty, the court will utilize the latter articulation as it represents a more difficult legal standard. And so then it goes down and it breaks down the financial issues, the legal guidelines for the issues, the resources that the plaintiff had to spend in responding to the defendant's numerous rambling filings. So that was taken into account. Lots of different things were considered. most of it either related directly to the law or the cost that the Andreacchios had to pay out of pocket specifically because of the actions that were taken by the defendant, critical K in this particular instance. And so, to make a long story short, to make a long story short, $500,000 judgment. Now I'm going to ask you this. It was such DB. I'm going to read DB's statement. That such an amazing. I mean, this captures the shock as the judge described his reaction. Okay. That was quite an arrogant smorgasbord of mumbo jumbo masquerading as a legal brief. Word to the wise, don't ever threaten the court. Don't infer they are not legitimate. And don't get up on your high horse when someone that you have said is a legal prescriber and you are calling them a drug addict and responsible for the deaths of 2 young men and then try to say that you somehow are a knight in shining armor. Don't do that. This was a very specific case. And, a lot of people are paying a lot of attention. A lot of YouTube creators, well, I shouldn't just say YouTube creators, social media commentators. I guess that's probably a more inclusive heading. That a lot of us are paying attention because we are seeing these creators who became quite audacious, and the people they were talking about had the money and the wherewithal to bring suit and to say, you can't tell people that I had 5 abortions. You can't tell people that. You have no idea, in all likelihood, what you're saying. It's a lie. And the only reason you would say something like that would be to hurt my reputation. That was another case. Another YouTuber said that about a singer, famous singer. It is different, as soon as Barry Morphew was given bail and he was out. At that point, if y'all notice, I stopped. Now, I did talk about Suzanne being, missing and whatnot, but this whole thing about, this is why I think Barry did it, that had to come to an end, because the reality was at that point that they dropped the charges and all that. He's a free guy. He has no charges against him. There in no way can I justify trying to say, oh yeah, I think he's totally a murderer. Let me tell you all the reasons why. Now, Bryan Kohberger, he's in jail without bail. Everyone thinks more likely than not, he probably did it. So if I talk about that case and somebody says, oh, we're going to sue you because you tried to make people think that Bryan Kohberger was a murderer, I'm going to be able to say, wait a minute, there was a prosecutor that thought he was a murderer, and there were cops, and there was a grand jury that thought he was a murderer. I'm not the only one that thought that, so I'm probably safe, right? But I can't do that with someone like Barry Morphew, regardless of what my personal opinion might be. At this stage in the investigation, a judge has seen fit to drop the charges, which say, you can do whatever you want to, Barry. Go, born free. So to say that this healthcare provider, licensed, credentialed healthcare provider, that she was misusing her license to put dangerous chemicals out on the street that resulted in the death of not only her own son, but another child, a young person. That wasn't gossipy. That wasn't fun, throwing shade. That was, in fact, the definition of slander. I'll tell you another definition of slander. To say that, let's say that there's like a mental health professional that's, got a channel or whatever. And then you knowingly tell a lie and say, oh, that person told someone to go kill themselves or harm themselves or something like that. And then you contact the licensing board to say, oh, this person totally said that, totally did. You should watch what they're saying. That's slander. That's exactly, except for the fact that you're talking about, pills, chemicals. It's exactly the same thing. It is a lie that's being told with the intention of destroying a professional reputation, and then going in search of the licensing organization to try to exert pressure on them to act for someone who never did anything wrong. That is slander. It is not slanderous for someone to say, oh, they're such a liar. They're such a big liar. That is not slander. So I do think it is important. I really do. And this whole social media as an extension of our real lives. It didn't used to be that way. It used to be that you could come on social media, you could be anonymous, in your interactions and whatnot. But at this point now, so many people are presenting on social media as an extension, let's say, of their profession, of their job. Like Peter Tragus is an attorney, or Scott Reich is an attorney. Duty Ron was a detective, and he's retired now, but he's still kind of reflecting his professional knowledge of what it's like to be a detective and do criminal investigations and such. And now he's covering that on his YouTube channel. This is becoming more and more common. And when we are in a field, we're not knitting, we're not baking and things like that, right? With the content that we're covering, we are talking about people that have been accused of terrible crimes, or they've been found guilty. We go through the court, go through the trials and cover those as they go. We really need to walk a really fine line as creators, and subscribers too. We need to walk a very fine line. You know what I'm talking about? We need to be very careful that we don't fall over into slander. This case coming from the architect in New York, the Long Island serial killer, Rex Uriman. That's a good example. And here's what I mean. They believe that there were men there at the house when the young lady made the phone call to 911, Shannon Gilbert. There were men there, and they know of 2 for sure, and likely 3. One of them is a doctor. One of them is a financial advisor, a financial analyst. And then the other one, I think, is Rex Uriman. I think it's his voice. Do these men, a retired doctor and a financial analyst in Manhattan, do you think they have enough money to bring suit against a YouTuber just like Rae Andreacchio did? You bet. You bet. So while I'm going to cover these men, I'm going to talk about the reported connections. I'm not saying anything that hasn't been reported in the newspapers, right? So we have to be very careful now. We really do. And I will say this. I this is one settlement that I was well, I this was a good this was I was glad to see this. Um where I went to high school, my high school played against the school that Christian Andreacchio played for. Um, I don't know. I didn't know him or nothing like that. But just knowing that area of the country, going there for tournaments and things like that. So it just it's just kind of it's a terrible situation. I felt my heart really went out to Christian's mom, and it was a bad, terrible thing all the way around. And then to have been attacked on such a public platform in such a venomous, bizarre way was very difficult. DB and Sleuth Mom, were y'all watching when all that happened? Was it that to me? I remember that was one of the strangest things that I saw was how Rae Andreacchio, this very well respected person in her community, in fact, her entire state, how she was systematically demonized and objectified and then turned into this horrible person. And then as I watched, everyone in the channel started referring to Rae Andreacchio in terrible ways. And I just was aghast because I kept thinking, why? What did she do? She is asking for a legitimate investigation. And she didn't just choose a random person to accuse. This kid was in the bank on film with her son's bank card trying to get Christian's money out of the bank, as he likely, I think, in my opinion, I think he was already dead. So it's so, oh my gosh, it was so difficult. I always tell people never accuse somebody. It's always allegedly. Yet there, you know what, Michelle? I mean, I know that you follow this kind of stuff too. There's a lot of creators that are beginning to, be served, right? It's coming. So more, we really need to, if you're making commentary on the internet, we need to be very responsible with what we say. And then that's right. Once it's out there, you can't get it back. Moo go balding on yourself in front of a Vegas judge being warned. I don't know who that is. Moo. I don't know who that is. When I left for good, Kay got crazy, justifying the bank scenario. Oh, Kimberly. Oh my gosh. How can you you basically have to be just like unaware. Like you basically have to be sleeping to accept that there was anything acceptable or normal about that human standing in the bank with Christian's bank card wanting all the money. How do you justify that? And she did, but anyone, no. A rational person, there is no excuse for that young man to have had Christian's bank card. That just was, and really and truly, if you go back to the case, Christian really shouldn't have even been with that guy. Remember how weird that was? They weren't even. I mean, they had been friends, but it was a very, very strange situation all the way around. And I know our young people, that age group, they can do some, bonehead things. They can be impulsive. I know that. especially when there's a girl involved. But golly, that it oh, heartbreaking situation. I wasn't watching, but I've seen too many good people's reputations completely destroyed on YouTube based on absolutely nothing. Um, DB, what was the name of that kid in Austin? The 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 best friend took the woman and her baby, and everybody was convinced that it was the dad. I can't remember their name now. Heidi Bouchard? Was it Heidi? Is that yeah? It was Heidi Bouchard, and I can't remember the husband's name. Um, I don't remember the husband's name, but that was that was one. He was painfully. His name was Shane. Was it Shane? Yeah, my brain. I don't. Megan. But Megan was the why did I think it was yeah, Shane Carey, yes. And was Heidi the one that did it? Heidi was the murderer? Thank you. I've learned a lot. Y'all are like my external hard drive. The killer. Yes. Thank you, Team Daisy Do. Um, yeah, so that was another, that was another one of those cases. Shane Carey is just painfully shy, right? And he was okay. So Heidi was the victim, Megan was the killer. Okay, thank you. Oh my goodness. Um, but he had such terrible anxiety. He was overwhelmed by this bizarre disappearance, but people saw those symptoms of anxious distress and they thought, oh, he totally did it, he's so nervous, he had to have done it. But sometimes people have high anxiety because they have, you know they're very shy, or they have social anxiety, or they're in panic because their loved ones have disappeared into thin air. So that was my case. That was my case that told me, slow your roll, be careful, don't jump on the bandwagon. When these extraordinary cases come out, sit back 3, 4, 5 days before you ever make any statement. And I think I've pretty much done that since then. Yeah, that was a terror. I felt so bad for that young man. Ugh, terrible. There have been too many, Michelle. What about the professor at University of Idaho? That that I don't know, what do you call her? Tarot card reader or psychic or whatever she is. This psychic woman has picked out a professor at the university and has just decided out of thin air, well, this professor was having an affair with Kaylee, and she's the one that had them all killed. So this professor has now had to put out $150,000 plus to try and make this or it's a TikTok psychic, to make this TikTok psychic stop calling her a murderer and stop talking about this imagined affair. It's a, bizarre tarot card reader. Oh my gosh. So yeah, we got to do better, y'all. We got to do better. We do. But I was glad for the Andreacchio family. This doesn't have anything really, it doesn't really have any relation to Christian, his death and what happened to him, but it was Christian's death was the catalyst for how the attention fell on Rae Andreacchio. But from that point on, it was just odd how she became the target of these three people. It was really horrible to watch. That happened on Jazz for Justice. Yeah, that was a crazy night, Kimberly. One of Kay's ex-friends, she ended up getting sued. Wait, what? No, no, no. I thought you were going to talk about what happened with Shane Carey. That happened on J's for Justice. One of Kay's ex-friends, she ended up getting sued by West Florida, streaming their lives and covering their logo. That's what I thought they were talking about, Michelle. That when the news came out that they thought they had found Heidi in Houston, that the friend of Heidi was doing an interview with JS for Justice live, right? So they covered the whole thing. Yeah, that was really something. We leave mainstream media to avoid fake news, but then we fall into its trap here on YouTube. It is a balancing act, Cinnamon Hot. Absolutely. Yeah. But I still think that YouTube or social media commentary, I just think it's better because I don't think people have these like political motivations. Like they're not being ordered to cover the story in a certain way or to talk about things in a certain way. People are reading the mainstream media to get facts, and then they present what, based on their own experiences and opinions. And so to me, that makes it much more interesting because you're getting authentic opinion. Whereas I think what we're getting out of like the mainstream media people, the professional broadcasting, these are people that are just so polished and trained, and it becomes a bit stale, right? It's too it's been sterilized. And so that's one thing that I really, really like about YouTube commentary is I really like people's opinion. I like to listen to how people, like we may all look at a fact in one way, and then all five of us will see it in a completely different perspective. And if you hear all five perspectives, then you're probably getting closer to the truth, getting all those different, perspectives, rather than having five news channels saying exactly the same memorized line to you. You're just getting one side, right? So I do still, this is my primary, this is, I don't watch the news, or unless something big happens, I don't watch mainstream. Less corporate speak that mainstream media uses. I've been following Trump, and the deep state and what's happening in this world's planet. It is demonic, evil, and Luciferians. It is weird. It is, things are getting very odd. Absolutely. Very strange. They use the word entertainment to try and cover their lazy reporting of inaccurate facts. It is disgusting. Heidi was killed. Definitely better, but we have to, through the YouTubes put on by production companies. Well, that, Cinnamon, that's kind of one of my pet peeves, right? Nobody has dominion over one area of the internet, or not, for sure. But I find it interesting. It's irritating. I'm going to be honest. I'm not going to try to sugarcoat it. It's irritating that people left the mainstream media, right? Why? Why did everybody stop watching CBS, NBC, Fox? Why did people stop watching? Because it was manipulation, because they were all reporting exactly the same thing, but they would put their political spin, and it was all designed to guide you to buy their products or to believe what they believe or to vote the way they wanted you to vote. And so you never got just the facts, ma'am. You never just got just the authentic story, correct? And so what did everybody do? It's divisive. Exactly, Moonlight. And so what did everybody do? They said, you know what? I don't want to watch these people manipulating me anymore. Now I'm going to go to a place like Twitter or YouTube, and I'll just figure it out on my own. I'll just listen to a lot of people, and then I'll just figure out what I believe all on my own, right? And so everybody stopped watching mainstream media, and they were shocked when people abandoned them by the millions. And where did they all go? On YouTube and Twitter and Instagram and whatnot. And so now what are they doing? Well, now they're all making their channels here on YouTube, but with the little CBS logo. And here's the part that makes me mad. It makes me angry that they no longer suggest the small independent channels. Now, if you do a search, you're going to get 5, 10, 50 pages of CNN, NBC, ABC, CBS before you ever get to an individual independent creator. And that is wrong, right? There's place for both. They both have utility, and they really need to try to get the algorithm to figure out how to manage. We need to suggest some of the mainstream stuff, and we need to suggest some of the small, independents. And I'm off my soapbox. I know that is irritating when people get on their soapbox and start preaching. So I apologize. I'm going to be quiet now, people. I am so sorry. All news sources use Associated Press and Reuters, which are also biased and controlled by people with the money. Money, 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 money. Money makes the world go round. What was that song? Money makes the world go round, the world go round. All right. Okay. So I think we have solved have we solved all the problems of the world? I think we did. It's great. And everybody remember Christian. And I think at this point, it is a matter of respect to at least learn how to say their name. It's Andreacchio. Andreacchio. There's no cha-cha-cha in it. Okay? It's disrespectful. It's been a big story. Lots of people covering it, talking about it. And, so it's quite a loss. It was a terrible thing what happened with Christian. Hey, AK, I only watch your channel for any and all information I may need to imbibe. How are you, my friend? It's very good to see you. They push their opinionated narrative to cause division in our country. It is frightening how there's two things that make me nervous, Kathy. Makes me nervous how divided we truly are. That's number one. But here's the part that is scary. It is scary that people cannot tolerate even hearing an opposing opinion. It makes people literally freak out if they're confronted with someone who has a different belief. And I'm an old lady. I don't think I've ever seen that before. I think this is the first time in my whole life that I've seen people literally afraid of an opposing opinion. It's going to be a really boring life. I want y'all to think about this. It's going to be a very boring existence if we all think the same thing, if we all believe the same thing. These are going to be some really boring conversations, right? So I don't know. I think we should, learn to breathe and relax a little bit and just communicate with each other and find the middle ground. Hey, Mel Mac, welcome. How are you doing? AK's gone silent. Speak, AK. The world is listening. I'll tell you this, AK. I have totally been enjoying Tube Crimes videos. He's so funny. Thank you so much, Michelle. It's good to see you. Thank you for coming. You'd listen to my soapbox 7 days a week. I don't. That is a very kind thing to say, and I think you are lying. But that's okay because you're a nice guy. I've got any manner of soapbox that you could ever imagine, AK. I just pull them out at will, depending on what conversation I'm in. Hey, Blonde PT, welcome. I have forgotten older. I definitely figured out how mainstream isn't for the most part telling the truth. Hence why I'm seeking all opinions for me to figure it out for myself. Me, absolutely the same, Blonde. Seems like independent thinking. It seems like independent thinking would be labeled as bad. Very 84 Orwellian. Scott, we blew past 1984 like 2 years ago. Like we are in uncharted territory at this point. Yes, Tube Crime. He is awesome. Very creative. Very creative guy. Funny guy. All right. So, have you been crawling around up in the mountains? Have you found any mines to climb around in? I think my battery's going dead. No, they don't teach critical thinking anymore. I agree, Diane. And that's not a good thing. It's our law. They don't teach math anymore. They got to have plenty of room to teach other things. You know what I mean? Oh, are you finished? Oh, I'm sorry. Well, you spent some rather cold nights up there. You know what I mean? All right. It's all in the data, and law enforcement have to want to find her. Oh yeah, I've come to the I've developed this opinion that those people that we elect or those people in leadership positions, they know when things have gone off the rails, but it's too much trouble, and they would rather ignore it and play dumb than have to go through the trouble of actually doing the right thing. I believe that. I think it is a matter of convenience that they are not acting on all of these, travesties that you and I can see. Major data drop incoming very soon. I'm ready. I am ready. They don't teach spelling past the 3rd grade. I'm going to be honest, Angel, and I'm not an extremist. I am as far middle, down the middle as anybody can get. Socially, I'm pretty far left, but if I had kids, I'm not sure that I would want them in the public school system right now. I would probably quit working and teach them myself. It's gotten to that point. It's gotten dangerous in the schools. It's very frightening. It's very frightening. Diane is waiting on the data. Yes. All right, y'all. I don't know why, but my battery is down to 4%. I have no idea why. So I'm going to have to call it a night. AK, it was so great to see you again. Thank you for dropping in. You too, Michelle. It's good talking to you. Everybody, y'all are awesome. I appreciate you listening to me on my soapbox. And I hope y'all have a good evening. And remember, don't tell lies about other people trying to ruin their reputation. You might just end up owing somebody $500,000. Y'all have a good evening.